Hi, my fellow weirdos. It has been long time no see again. I apologise. How are we all doing? Today I am bringing you my April wrap up. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. I'm Anna Reads Horror. If you are interested in seeing reviews and videos for horror books, I'm your gal. Be sure to subscribe, give this video a like. It lets me know that you are here to stay if you're a fellow weirdo. Okay, so enough of the rambling. I read 7 books in April, so I just thought I'd talk through them all. Now, a little disclaimer, all of these books were absolutely amazing. And yeah, I feel like this has been the first month in a while where I've enjoyed every single book. So all of these books that I'm going to talk about in this video, highly recommend. Which I will say isn't usually the case. Usually I'm a bit miserable. I can be a little bit critical of some books, but these slapped. So the first book that I want to talk about is, actually it's a 2026 release. Several of these actually are, so I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but it's my first book by this author, and that is T.Kingfisher, Wolfworm. Now, let's take a moment for the cover. Oh. This cover is absolutely freaking stunning, and I am tempted to get the Owl Crate edition as well, because if you've seen that, that's also stunning. It's one of those books where literally every edition is stunning. Anyway, let's get to the point, Anna. So yeah, my first T.Kingfisher, I didn't really know what to expect. I think that T.Kingfisher is one of those authors that's horror and fantasy adjacent. Some of their work falls more into the fantasy category, whereas some of the horror falls more it's horror, but it has that fantasy element to it. However, this one is I'd say it's more historical, historical mystery with elements. There's some strong elements of horror in there, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those that kind of falls into a few subgenres. It's set in the late 1800s in Carolina, and the reason why I wanted to read it is because it follows a scientific illustrator with a focus on insects. So yeah, it just intrigued me because I haven't read that much book horror, but the book horror that I have read, I have really enjoyed. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, we follow a scientific illustrator. She is out of work, and she just gets this job opportunity in this estate in rural Carolina. But the scientist that is employing her, he's a bit of a recluse. He's not a nice person. He's rude, and she goes there and she kind of uncovers quite a lot of things, hence the mystery. So yeah, in this book there's quite a lot of terminology to begin with different insects, and the way that they operate. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but basically the way there's a lot of science in this. However, to someone that is not clued up at all on science and terminology and insects and all that, it was very readable, so I would recommend it. The only thing that I would say is with books like this, I don't know if this is just a me thing, but when you have books that have a lot of terminology, why are we not doing an index or something in the book? I feel like that's a nice addition. And yeah, I get it, the whole point in reading a book is for you to then take it upon yourself to research this terminology yourself as a reader. And I get that point, but when it's so, there's enough terminology and a lot enough different insects in this book for there to be like some sort of, you know, index at the end or glossary or whatever. So yeah, that would be my only sort of take on that. As the book progresses, so even at the beginning, actually, we learn some pretty dark stuff about what these insects do. I'm not going to go into it because I think, you know, read the book, like it's really good. But yeah, some of this stuff I didn't know, and it's honestly terrifying. And yeah, some of the descriptions in this pretty horrific. And I am not usually one for like a mystery book, but when it's put together with the historical, with the body horror, with the insects, it really worked for me. So yeah, I love this book. I think I haven't read anything quite like this, but if I was to compare it to like a book that I have read, I would compare it to Itch by Gemma Amor. So if you liked that book, then you might like this book. However, that book's not set in the 1800s, that is set in present day, but it has the same sort of elements like moulded together. I'd say it's kind of like a few different subgenres mixed together. So yeah, highly successful first T.Kingfisher read. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And my question to you is, have you read any other T.Kingfisher books? Because I want to know, and I want to know recommendations, please, because yeah, I feel like they're an author that I've not really researched all that much, so I'm not sure which books to read next. Which ones, you know, like the more horror adjacent ones would be probably my preference, not so much the fantasy ones. But yeah, I am getting into like horror fantasy. Like if there's enough horror in it, I am willing to read it. But yeah, definitely recommend this book. The next book I read, very different in style to Wolfworm, was American Narcissus by Chandler Morrison. Now, I have read quite a few of Chandler Morrison's books before, and he is an author for me. I will literally read anything he puts out there because he is just my type of author. I would describe him as like, I don't know, he's like done splatterpunk books, but he's also done like more, I don't know, just generally transgressive. I would say this one falls into that subgenre. It's not horror as such, like there's some horrific things in this book, but I wouldn't class it as like a straight up horror book. So this book essentially follows a load of shitty people doing shitty things. So there's not much in terms of plot, but I had such a good time reading this book. Like we just follow loads of different perspectives of these people just doing shitty things, and that's pretty much all that happens throughout the book. But the writing style is very satirical. It's very dark, very humorous, my kind of humour. If you are into dark humour, then you might be into this book. His other books I've read, I wouldn't say, like, this is quite dark, don't get me wrong. There are some very dark, horrible things that happen in this book. But I wouldn't say it's his darkest book, because I have read Along the Path of Torment and Dead Inside, and if you read those books, then you will know they are some of the darkest books I've ever read. But yeah, I very much enjoyed this. He's very sort of Bret Easton Ellis coded as well. If you're into that sort of author, then I would definitely check out Chandler Morrison's books. And he's one of those where I just need to read all of his backlog. I think this will be my 4th or my 5th read by him. But yeah, I just want to read them all. Just give them me all. He has also just announced a book which is coming out this year. And this will be his first release for, I think, maybe a couple of years. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that, and the cover is gorgeous. So yeah, Chandler Morrison for life. The next couple of books I read, actually, I'll talk about these together because this part of the same, it's not a series, but like they're set in the same setting and the same universe. So these books aren't like connected in terms of plot, but yeah, in terms of setting, they're both set in the wilderness in the same universe. And these books are The Extra and The Other. Now I've been hearing so much about The Extra. They're both novellas, so you can read them very quickly. The Extra has been out maybe like for a year or so, and I just keep hearing more and more people talk about it. So I read that book, and then straight away after I heard the ARC was on NetGalley, so I had to apply to get the ARC for The Other, and I read them back to back because that's how good they were. So The Extra it follows like a school trip, and you've got this teacher and he's doing like several head counts, of course, along the way, and he gets to this point where they're on this where they get to this trip in the wilderness, they're camping, and he gets to this point where there's an extra number that he's accounted for, and he can't for the life of him figure out how this extra person has turned up, because every time he's looking at the kids and the faces, they're all the same faces, so there's just this extra person, and he can't figure out how that has happened, and he's just trying to, for the whole book, he's trying to figure out how he's got into this predicament, basically. If you are into like books with ambiguous endings, this is going to be for you. I would highly recommend it to everyone, to be fair, because it's one of those books you can read in maybe like a couple of hours, so just to give it a go, see if you like it. The Other is actually probably my favourite of the two. Now this comes out in summer, and yeah, this is about a couple. So a couple are like struggling in their relationship, they're trying to resolve a few things, so they organise this camping trip in the middle of nowhere. They don't come across anyone until they come across this couple one day. They get talking and they decide to like camp in the same area as this couple. So they get up the next day, one of the couple goes out to the toilet or something, and then they come back, but by that point the other couple that they'd previously met shows up together, but as the original couple's doppelgangers. So somehow they merge into the actual couple. Now the problem is, because they got separated, the original couple can't tell who's who. So it really does test their relationship, because they're trying to figure out who their partner is, because obviously they're doppelgangers, so they can't figure out. They're trying to figure out for the whole book who's who. And yeah, the ending just blew my mind for this one. I really do think this one is the better of the two. I felt like it was a little bit more developed, but yeah, I would highly recommend them both. Yeah. And also just a shout out to the publisher, because they're published by Shortwave Books, and they are pushing out some amazing titles at the minute. They've published books, so they've done like a VHS series, which I really want to read the entire series. I've read like 2 of the books, and they're published authors like Gemma Moore, Nat Cassidy. So yeah, definitely recommend just checking any of their books out that they publish, because they're just hitting it recently. So yeah, shout out to you, Shortwave Publishing. You rock. You rock. Don't know why I did that. Okay, so the next book is technically a thriller, but I would class it in like that weird thriller / horror, because it is so dark in places. And that is Petty Lies by Sulmi. Now this is a debut, and this was such a clever read. It is translated from Korean, and I think if you liked the book Confessions by Kanye Minato, then I would definitely recommend this book for you, because it kind of pieces together, like you get like layers of the story as a reader and different perspectives. and you're trying to figure out what's happening essentially. So I don't want to go too much into the plot, but it basically challenges revenge and how people react to it. And I think it's just so cleverly done. Like, you'll understand what I mean when you get to the ending. But these types of books often have like a commentary on society or psychological things, and I just think this was executed so well, and for a debut, absolutely incredible. But yeah, we get, as a reader, we get like essentially 4 different letters, and we are trying to figure out what has actually happened and who is actually at fault. And yeah, absolutely incredible. And like I say, it was dark, so there are some definitely triggers in here for a lot of people that you might not be happy with. So yeah, just putting that out there. But yeah, I loved this book, and I would definitely be checking out other books by this author. Next book was My Death by Lisa Tuttle, and this is one of those books where I honestly think it'd be more beneficial for you to just not go in knowing a whole lot about it, because it honestly blew my mind. There's so much to unpack, but I can't really go into it without giving spoilers. So it is what it is, guys. I'm sorry. If you in any way love Shirley Jackson, you love books that are like uncanny, really like thought-provoking, they kind of fall into like the literary, I don't know what genre this falls into, but yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, I would say it was like a literary horror. And essentially follow a writer, like a widowed writer, that is trying to work on her biography. Sorry, not her biography, a biography of an artist. And she kind of gets obsessed with this artist and this artist's background, but then again, I don't want to say too much, but like, she realizes that she has more in common with this artist than she initially thought. So yeah, if you're into like books that have a commentary on art, I'd say society in general, it's quite psychological, definitely check it out. Honestly, guys, it just blew my mind. I need to talk to someone that has read this book, so if you have read it, let me know and we can have a little discussion, because I honestly don't even know what to think. I haven't read any other books by Lisa Tuttle, but I am very tempted to now after this, because I love this book. And again, it's a novella, so you can read it in like a few hours. So yeah, definitely recommend. Okay, finally, I'm saving the best one till last. I know I said I loved all the books that I read in April, but this one was my favourite. And that is the second to the Burnt Sparrow series, We Turn Gruesome at Night by ERIC LAROCCA. I got sent an early ARC PDF copy of this. I never read PDF ARC copies, but I had to for this. Honestly, I was on my iPad like proper zooming in, trying to read this book because I needed to know what happened like straight away. So if you haven't read the first book, it's set in the town of Burnt Sparrow, which is like a very quaint New Hampshire town. It's very, very dark. There's some weird people in there. The first book uncovers, it starts with this faceless family slaughtering people on Christmas Day, and there's a whole lot of horrible happenings after that. And we follow 2 main characters, Gladys and Rupert, in that book. And then we have, a lot of horrible, shitty people doing terrible things. And yeah, in that book there is quite a few things that go on. Some more memorable than others because There's some pretty extreme things that happen in that book. I didn't think it could get more extreme, but any time I read an ERIC LAROCCA book, he just manages to blow my mind. And yeah, I read this book, We Turn Gruesome at Night, and it's even darker than the first one. I'm thinking, how is that possible? But it really, really does push boundaries, and it does go there. So yeah, major trigger warning. I'd say these books, so they're like a combination of two subgenres, like the gothic and splatterpunk. And to be honest with you, I've not seen many authors combine those two subgenres together, because I love gothic books so much. But I often, sometimes, don't get me wrong, not all the time, but sometimes I just think, I just want it a little bit dark, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to go there, really, really go there, because I just think the combination of having like beautifully written prose, like those gothic elements, with very dark themes really mixes together very well. And I'd love to see more authors explore those two subgenres, but ERIC LAROCCA's just nailed it, honestly. As much as I loved the first one, I loved the second one just as much, if not more. And yeah, I highly recommend. So let me tell you what it's about, because if you've read the first one, you'll be familiar. So the second one is 10 years on from the first one. So it's not directly after the things that happen. These things have had time to fester. They've had time to progress into much darker themes, which is why I say this book is darker than the first one, because as much as the atrocities and the horrible things that happen in the first one, they've had time to really like sink in psychologically to Rupert and Gladys's character in the second book. So yeah, that's why it's darker. So you've essentially got Gladys and Rupert. You still follow their point of view in the second book, so it switches between, and you've also got another point of view as well, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. But yeah, so we've got Rupert, who's really our main character, I would say, in my eyes anyway. And he is having some very, very dark thoughts. Let's just say all that shit that's happened to him, he has had time to think about it, and he is not turning, or he's not becoming a great person because of it. He's becoming a much more horrible person, let's say. Him and Gladys are trapped together in End House, and they're very much trapped in the house. They can't get out. They are cursed, essentially. They're trying to get out of the house. Anytime they try and get out, they break apart, so they get dragged back. So you've got like that real supernatural sort of gothic attachment to this house. You've got descriptions where it actually just feels so mouldy and like grotesque, and it's so beautifully written, and you honestly feel as a reader that you are trapped in these walls. But then the thoughts he's having, they're just so out there. They're so bad. And then one day he gets sent this letter from this society in Burnt Sparrow, and yeah, in this letter it contains some horrible things, and that's when we get introduced to this new character, essentially. So yeah, I don't want to reveal too much. I always struggle with how much to tell you to try and hook you in. But yeah, I definitely think if you liked the first book, the second book is a must read. And yeah, Burnt Sparrow, in my eyes, it has the potential to be an entire series of books. I think it's planned on being 3. I think there's only meant to be 1 book after this. But I think because the way that ERIC LAROCCA set this town up, and its roots are just starting to grow, there's so much potential there for like future books. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say that Gladys and Rupert in particular could be explored for 20 books, but there's definitely some other characters that I want to know about. This town, it's like endless, and it just feels so, I don't know, so if you've ever been in, not like I've ever been to a town in the US like this, but it honestly, it just feels so dark and so grim, and it is just exactly the type of book that I love to read. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend you read both these books. But like I say, yeah, it does follow some very dark themes. But yeah, ERIC LAROCCA again is just one of those writers for me. I will read any single book. Any single book. I have read them all actually. So if you want like a ranking video, I'm not sure I could do a ranking video because they'd pretty much all be ranked at the same level. But I could like talk more in depth about his books essentially. The only things that I've not read by ERIC LAROCCA is short story collections, the anthologies that because he's done like loads of short stories. So yeah, I need to get into those. I need to order those. But yeah, highly recommend. You've probably heard me talk about ERIC LAROCCA before, but yeah, obsessed, absolutely obsessed. Now this book comes out in September, and I think they are doing arcs for it right now. So yeah, definitely get on it if you want an arc, and definitely just read the first book as well and let me know what you think. Okay, so that has been my April wrap up, 7 books in total. I am taking it a little bit slower, I think. Like typically in the past, well, for the past couple of years, I've been reading like 10 plus books a month, or 11, 12. I just think, I don't know, I'm really trying to take my time with books at the minute, and I'm just conscious of like me trying to rush through them, which I have done in the past. And I know it's because I want to read every single book, but I just need to accept the fact that I'm never going to do that and just slow it down a little bit. I really appreciate these books, and I think for my level of reading, I think anything 10 books or less is where I'm at the minute per month. So yeah, let me know if any of these books are on your radar, if you want to read any of these books. And yeah, I will see you next time, weirdos. Okay, bye.